It's a beautiful Saturday morning out here on the trails. Taking it easy because I can already feel that it's going to be hot. I try to not care about my pace because when I look at my pace I think I'm too slow, and I compare it to when I was back in the Netherlands and I used to run faster at the same effort, but it's just a different environment, so I'm giving the same effort but on a different pace, and it doesn't really matter in the end. So try not to focus on it, just take it easy. Yeah, going for a long run. Every Saturday I wake up to go for a long run. I wake up early, but years ago I used to come home at this time that I now wake up from a party or whatever, and I was living a really unhealthy lifestyle. And at some point that changed, and right now I'm training for ultramarathon. So how did that happen? I want to give some insight into the reason I got into running. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what I mean with an unhealthy lifestyle, but well, one of the things I did was smoking a lot of cigarettes and also drinking a lot of alcohol. And when I say unhealthy, I don't just mean physically unhealthy, but mentally as well. And I just wasn't being a useful person for my surroundings as well. So at some point I recognized that my behavior was not only affecting me, but the people around me as well. You can imagine I wasn't really a reliable guy. I remember one night where I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was laying in bed after a night out and my heart rate was going through the roof, and it got really scary. So I got out the door, went to the hospital, but on the way to the hospital, luckily, I noticed my heart rate was going down and I was not so scared anymore, so I turned around, got back to sleep. But that moment changed something. I realized that I had to change something, or else I would damage myself or people around me. At some point after that moment I decided to buy running shoes, and I don't even remember why, but I guess I remember that I kind of liked endurance sport because when I was 16, 5 years before that moment, I once bought a second-hand road bike and started grinding on it during the summer holidays, and I really enjoyed that, so I think I remembered that. And running seemed to be the most accessible thing to do. So I just literally thought, okay, this is a brand that I like, let's buy some shoes. Didn't really think about it that much. And then I just started doing some runs, a few runs every week. Started doing some 5Ks. But I already knew that I liked to do longer stuff, so went to 10K after a few weeks, and then before I knew it, I did a half marathon. I didn't know anything about running or how to train smart or in a good way. So for the first few years I didn't run that much because I would get injured every couple of months, and then I thought, well, I don't know how this works. I will stop running, and then after a few weeks I thought, no, let's start again. So that went on and off years. I made some pretty big steps in how much I can run, how much I'm able to run. But the most important thing is that running is connected to being a better person, because that's for me the first reason why I started running. So this is what I always say: I do not train for races, but I train for life. I mean, I also train for races, but not primarily. If I remember correctly, I started running in 2017, or at least that's when I started tracking my runs. And I did my first marathon in 2018, and I didn't really plan to do that. One morning I just thought, I want to know what it feels like to run a marathon. So I grabbed 3 bananas and 2 bottles of water, and I went out to run a marathon, underprepared. I think I did one 30k run before that, a few weeks before, but other than that I didn't really plan to do it. So I went out, and actually I could pace myself quite well, and I didn't really fade in the end. And I ran a 3:25 marathon. I didn't really know if that was fast or not at that time. My legs were shattered because I was not used to running 42k, but I think a fire was lightened at that moment. As you can tell, I'm struggling a bit during this run because it's really hot. But anyway, after some marathons I wanted to try the ultramarathon distance, and I don't know, I had this feeling that I was built for these longer distances because one, I really enjoyed them, and I could pace myself really well. So current situation, I ran 31k and I ran out of water. I think it's still 10 kilometers to my endpoint, so yeah, that's going to be quite rough. And I have 1 oat bar, which is really dry, so I cannot wash it down with any water, but I think I'm gonna eat it anyway because I need it. So yeah, last 10k are going to be a bit of a challenge. Whew, that was one of the hardest runs I've done in a very long time. I brought 2 liters of water, but could have known better. Well, I did 42k, so nice marathon long run, but yeah, it was a bit of a pain cave towards the end, so I'm gonna drink a lot of water. I also didn't tell as much as I would have hoped about my story of how I got into running, because, well, I was struggling too much with the run. But the main summary is, I used to be an unhealthy guy without any significant purpose in his life. And at some point I just bought some running shoes and now ended up running ultramarathons and trying to push my limits. So for me, running is connected to being a better person, and that's why I will continue to do it in the future. Tomorrow morning I'm going to New Zealand for the next 3 weeks, so I will try to make some longer videos with some beautiful shots of the environment. I'm going to do a 50k trail race as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, also to the cooler weather. I think that's going to be nice.